Hey, welcome to A Faster Me, Tour de Murrieta, stage 1.
All right, here we go with another race commentary. I think like the intro says, this is a Tour de Murrieta, the 4-5 crit. Yeah, it's stage 1 basically.
In 3, 2, 1.
As you can see from the start here, I'm probably not in the best position. I'm still learning, and it seems like I forgot everything that I learned from Ontario. Or maybe I just take it for granted since Ontario was, a little bit of a easier race. So, right off the start here, yeah, I'm too far back, pretty much out of position. If you look up the road there, you can see how stretched out this course is. It just kind of sets the peloton that way, sets the group up that way to where it's gonna be stretched out every chance it gets. There's so much start and stop here. And one of my mistakes was thinking that, oh, it's 0.8 of a mile, it's flat, it's gonna be very similar to Ontario. And honestly, it's night and day. And that's one of the biggest things I learned this weekend, is that every crit is different, every race is different, riders are different, all the circumstances are different. So it's a nice little move up the inside there by the rider in the black and orange or black and red. I wasn't as aggressive to even move up to the front, but I saw his video, and it's night and day from being in the front opposed to being in the back. Back here where I'm at, I'm using a lot of energy. There's a big accordion or yo-yo effect back here, and it's kind of hard to put it in perspective of how different the race is, when you're in the, say, top 10 or you're in the last 20, 30, 40 riders. You're using a lot more effort in the back here than they are up there. I watched his video, and half the time, he's using half the watts I am when he's, in the group. He uses big power, obviously, on the surges, but half the watts that I'm using for me to hold on to the back when they're sitting up there in the front, comfortable in a draft. And the draft is different back here. All of us back here are shuffling for position. It's not as solid 2 and 3, 4 rider draft like it is up front. Sometimes you got one wheel, then as you can see here with the accelerations and stuff, then you'll quickly go to 0 wheels. So I didn't do a really good job of drafting or holding a wheel in this race either. This race is pretty difficult. There's a little bit of a crosswind. It's cold, it's early in the morning, and you can see we're doing just about 30 miles per hour here, and it was really fast, incredibly fast. This part is 1% downhill, but the other stretch, the front stretch, is about 1 to 1.5% uphill. It's just a false flat, looks kind of flat, but you can definitely tell you're going uphill. But honestly, at the beginning of the race, we're doing 29 up the front sometime, 28, 29 up the front. And yeah, that taxes your legs. You got to pretty much accelerate out of every corner here. You can see in the top right-hand corner of this video, you can see the layout of the course there. And those short little straights on the side, they really cause a lot of separation. The road surface is not the greatest. On the 2 straightaways, it's not that bad. But on the 2 side streets up there, those short straights, the road surface it changes surfaces. So as you'll see after we pass the start finish here and go into turn 1, you lose a lot of speed. It bottlenecks, kind of funnels everyone in, and then there's a big bump right here, and yeah, it's just hard to keep like that lean angle and your speed up and keep pedaling while you're going over those bumps, especially since a lot of riders are slowing down there. So that corner there is pretty flowing. There's different lines you can take, and then right here in this section, that bump is a killer. It's a killer for momentum. At one point, it knocks my chain to skip a gear. It also knocks out my computer at one point, and my stats go haywire for a second, and then they come back about a minute later. Here, I'm just doing a poor job out here, not close enough to get a good draft. I'm not putting in that big of an effort either. We're coasting downhill because the next turn bottlenecks again, goes over some kind of brick or cobblestone, and that's going to cause some issue pretty much in every race. There's a crash right here in this corner, pretty much every race throughout the day. I'm doing okay here, other than the pace is just hot. It's way faster than I thought it would be. There's not a lot of opportunities to move up unless you just put in a big power surge, which, you know, honestly, I still don't have the confidence to do that yet. And one thing I definitely like to point out, you know, on the aspects of all races are not created equal, is this is a 4-5 race opposed to the first race that I did that was just a pure 5 race. And you would think there's not that big of a difference between 4s and 5s, but the experience level, the team tactics, the just race tactics in general, the pace, everything's a little bit higher. As far as team tactics and race tactics, it's a lot higher. It's night and day from Cat 5. The Cat 5 race I did, there wasn't that much, you know, tactical things going on. It was kind of free for all. And this one's a little different. Obviously, we can't see the front, but there's a team out front with about 5 guys just drilling the pace. They're kind of stretched out, and they're just drilling it on the front from lap 1. It was almost a breakaway, basically, from lap 1, but it was just stretched out that far. This is only lap 2 or so, and we're pretty much single file until you get to a corner. So it's an all-out sprint every turn, and then it bottlenecks into the corners. You can make up a little room in the corners, but not much. It gets, you know, we're still not so great at holding our lines in these lower categories, and you'll see that there's a lot of movement, and of course later there's a big crash coming up. I don't like being on the outside here, but just with speed, I can carry my speed around the outside. It gets a little congested on the inside, and I know that you need to punch up this hill, which every time we come around to this front straight, you'll see my watts drop lower and lower. I started off doing just about 700 watts up this front, and by the end of the race, I'm struggling to hold 300 watts up here. It's a great job by the young man in front of me here with the red, white, and blue. I want to say he may be a junior. I'm not sure. If you're not a junior, I apologize. He's a lot smaller rider, and it was hard for me to get a draft off of him. I couldn't really feel the draft at all. I know I'm not directly behind him here, but it was just hard for me to feel a draft there, and maybe because of the crosswinds that we had a little bit. And the rider here to my left with the neon yellow, very strong rider. I really like his cadence and smoothness. I watched him in these crits, or this crit, and the circuit race on the next day, and he's very efficient. He has like a medium cadence, but he has nice, full, powerful strokes, and he just always looks like he's doing it effortlessly. And even on the circuit race, he's putting down a lot of power, and you'll see people standing out of the seat. We're really giving effort, and he's just nice, smooth, efficient pedal strokes. I don't know his name though. So the race is kind of settled in now with the pace. You can see everybody's a little more relaxed. It's not as hectic. Unfortunately for me, I've put in a lot of effort for where I'm at right now, fitness-wise. So, being that this is new, I've got the plan of this whole year of just kind of racing myself into shape and learning as much as I can and just improve. This was like a college course for me. I went from high school in the Ontario crit to taking my first college courses, and it was a big step up for me doing this 4-5 crit and just doing the 2-day races back to back. Same thing here, just trying to sit in and get a good draft here. Again, I wasn't really feeling the draft that much here, and being to the left, I want it to be more to the inside, but the course is very tight, and it bottlenecks so much here. You can get squeezed out pretty good. And I've watched some other videos, and yeah, every race there's someone on the inside that went wild and took some people out. Pretty much every race I saw, the women's races included. You know, in a little while here, we're gonna have a big crash, and yeah, the inside is where I want it to be, but I just wasn't as comfortable. It didn't seem like it was as safe today. And then of course the far outside was definitely not safe, because everyone that was on the outside, those are the guys that got taken out by the dive bombers on the inside. So just some of these turns just bottlenecked and funneled so much. You know, it was a big factor in the race. That's just how this course plays out. So. Another thing I wanted to touch on is that I didn't know at this point, but fueling. Fueling is a big deal, like especially if you're going to do 2-day races. I kind of took this weekend for granted, at least the first day. You know, you have a 35-minute crit, you kind of think like, okay, it's 35 minutes. But the weekend just didn't start off well to begin with. Long day of work on Friday, where I was just busy a lot and on my feet. Left work Friday and headed straight down to the hotel. Got in the hotel late. Didn't have the greatest meal. Ended up having some Thai food with my wife, and it was incredibly greasy. Kind of made me a little bit sick. And then didn't get sleep that night. I don't know why, but maybe a little restless. Didn't get any sleep. And, you know, I didn't think it factored in on the day of the race. You know, the race was more just pace. The pace is hot, as you guys can see. It's stretched out, and it's pretty much been stretched out from the first turn. And that's a good indication of just how fast the pace is. The weather was pretty cold. I mean, it was supposed to be chances of rain this weekend, but, you know, basically there was no rain. It was just chilly. I think we started off in the 40s, racing here mid-50s probably, and honestly it didn't feel too bad once your body warmed up. So, here's another example of just not doing a good job. I'm just off, not in the draft, didn't put in effort to keep the wheel there. And, you know, as you can see, I'm falling back. Heart rate's up to 184, probably getting a little gassed and trying to accelerate off this straightaway, off the corner here to get up the front straight. And you can see as I didn't even hit 300 watts there, and earlier in the race we were hitting just under 700 watts. Almost every time coming up this straight we're at 400, 500, 600 watts, and my power is slowly fading, as is my speed. Sometimes it seems pretty easy, like just to put in that little effort and get on a wheel. But when you're out there doing it, obviously, you know, it is what it is. Your fitness level and your punch, the energy you have in your body, that's just where it's at on that day. Corners, good thing for me is I can always carry good corner speed. As long as there's a clear lane in front of me, I can always make up a little space there, and I'm able to attach to the back of the peloton again. I think it might be right here where this bump just pretty much kills my computer. If it's not this lap, it's the next lap, and yeah, all my power kind of goes out. I know my gear had skipped and it shifted on its own without me, you know, shifting. I had to try to work that back into the right gear. Di2 works pretty good for that, but if your Di2 jumps too many gears, you're going to be in some trouble. I have had that happen before where I basically couldn't shift anymore. I have to stop and try to fix the derailleur. And there's the big crash right there. That's really unfortunate because I know one of the guys that was in that crash. I don't know him personally. I just know he's a decent rider, and I saw his video. He had nothing. He did nothing wrong, and a guy comes screaming across his front wheel, straight into the curb, crashes, and takes about 4 or 5 guys out. Actually, there's probably about 10 people affected by that crash. Some had to bunny hop the curb. Yeah, it's pretty crazy crash. And here I'm pretty much popped. We're about halfway through the race, maybe just slightly less than halfway through the race, and yeah, I was pretty much done. I was already starting to lose touch with the group, and that crash didn't help things, but for me it didn't matter because I didn't have the energy to go with any of the guys that rejoined. It takes me probably, I don't know, a few laps after this to even try to recover. So right now I'm just thinking, at the moment I was feeling like, man, I'm done. I won't even be able to finish this. But obviously I'm not a quitter. I'm gonna keep trying to put in a solid effort and learn as much as I can and get a finish, or climb back up if you ever get that opportunity. You never know what can happen in a race, and sometimes it comes back to you.
Yeah. I'll try. I'm popped though.
Yeah, this rider here, he tried to help me out. He was recruiting me to, see if we can get a rotation and get back on. And unfortunately, he was affected by the crash, and I was popped. So I just didn't have the energy to actually help out. So after we go, these couple corners, I actually basically say, hey, we're going too slow, and try to release him. I don't want to slow him down too much, because I wasn't able to I would have probably needed another half lap to even put in a pull for him. So, and I know I'm holding him back by a couple miles per hour.
Way too slow. We won't catch.
Here's the same, this is pretty much the story of my race right here. Is just hang in there and do what I can. Rider comes by here, he pats his butt, tells me to jump on his wheel, but again, I have no energy. I wish I would have stayed on the previous rider's wheel though, and then maybe the three of us may have been able to get something going again. But honestly, it took me too long to recover. Probably took me a good lap, at least a lap to recover. And even then, I think those guys are Cat 4, and being that I rode 2 days with them, they're stronger than I am anyway. I would have been holding them back a little bit in the group. Pulls are good. Pulls are good for everyone, though. I mean, no matter Cat 4 or Cat 5, the Cat 4s can still rest while I'm pulling. It's just eventually I would have been dropped again, most likely. So here's just me soloing for the next couple laps. So I'm gonna fast forward, save all of us a little bit of time, and then I'll catch it back up in a few laps and finish out the race and just have some fun at the end with a couple guys that I end up teaming up with. And here's a situation I hope to never be in again, where you're in a crit and you get lapped by the group, get lapped by the peloton. So the rider in front of me here, I actually think he's lapped too, but at the time that I was riding, I thought he was part of the lead group. So I never even attempted to team up with him or stay on his wheel. I know you can rejoin the peloton, but being a lap down, I was just mainly concerned with, I didn't want to interfere with anyone else's race or results, because by this time I am fairly recovered and I could have put in an effort to stay on the back of this here, but I end up just letting everyone go. And when I realized that the group is gone and I am at the end of it, I could have put in a little bit of effort, but again, I still was a little confused, and I definitely do not want to interfere with anyone's results that's on the first lap. And I didn't know what the rules are as far as me, like where I can be in the peloton. Do I have to just hang on the back? Could I move up and get like a better drafting position? And then doing so, does that interfere with someone else's results? So I just decided to just hang back and ride it solo and let the group go, even though I was thirsting, just starving for a draft. And I decided to let it go anyway and not even put in the effort. For me, I'm in 30 something place or 40th place. So it didn't matter to me, but it would matter if I end up getting in front of someone that could have gotten, say, a top 15 or something, and I end up being in the way somehow. So I decided just to hang back. We're pretty late into the race. We're definitely into let's say the last third of the race here, and the pace is still pretty hot. I mean, it's not as hot as it was earlier, probably calmed down about 2 miles per hour, but they're still doing a good 27, 28 down that back stretch, and 26 or so up the front here. For me, it's hard just to hold 23, 22, and when you're riding solo and that little bit of a crosswind, it was hard for me to just even maintain 20 miles per hour average speed a lap. I mean, yeah, I could have done it, but you lose a little bit of motivation also when you're out solo. And yeah, it's difficult with that wind. The group is so much faster. And just being in the group is so much faster. It's such less effort. And yeah, I definitely blew those opportunities today. Just right off the bat with starting position, I didn't realize the course road so narrow. When you're out there doing your warm-up laps, it's a huge street. You feel like you have a lot of room. And as soon as you put the other riders next to you, that course shrinks a lot, especially going into the corners. So there's my buddy John and number 565. I can't remember his name, but we rode a lot together these last 2 days, or the 2 days of the race. I thought they were on the lead lap here, so I let them go. And then, I'm at the back now, and I'm just like, all right, well, maybe I'll just catch up to them and ask if they're on the lead lap or not, or if they're lapped like me. And fortunately, they were lapped like me, or unfortunately for them, but fortunately for me, they were lapped. And, I was able to team up with them and, work together these last few laps, save all of us a little bit of energy and have a little bit of fun at the same time. Yeah, everybody's a little scared now going into that corner where there's been so many crashes. So here's where I find out that they're on the that they're lapped like I am.
I'm done. I'm down a lap. Oh.
So yeah, I don't know if they were dropped earlier in the race. I didn't see them in the crash, but they could have been caught up in that crash. But yeah, I'm not sure. So in a second here, after we make the turns, I'm going to ask if they want to, do some 10-second pulls, and we all agreed, and then we, decided to work together and, finish out the race, try to finish it out strong and stay focused. Definitely together.
You guys want to try some 10-second pulls? Yeah. All right. 10 seconds and then we'll switch off.
So here we just, start rotating 10-second pulls. We pretty much do this till the end of the race, and then we decide to have a race at the end, have an actual race at the end and sprint it out down the stretch, which was a lot of fun. Yeah, our rotations were pretty good. We're not actually pushing the pace real hard. Most of us, or all of us, we don't really have that much energy left. Yeah, we could go harder than we're going here. But I don't know if there was an exact reason to, and other than just, giving, say, a maximum effort, but it was a good experience and just a lot of fun working together and finishing the race strong. Yeah, if you see here, we're working together now, but we're still only going 22 miles per hour up these straights, and the group's doing a good 26 to 28, and yeah, it just makes a big difference. Cat 4 too, also for me, was just with the Cat 4 guys in there, the pace was just a lot faster. Unless it's just the course, don't really know. I mean, it's only my second race, so I don't know how much to attribute to 4s being in with the 5s or just the way this course plays. I know both days were very difficult. The pace was very hot. I heard other people talking about how fast the pace was in their group, so it could just be this particular weekend and how it played. I love riding John's wheel also. He's a big, strong rider and gives me a good draft. He's a little bit of a jokester, funny guy. Yeah, this is downhill now, and our speed has definitely dropped off. We're all hurting a little bit. We're only doing 22 miles per hour on the downhill, which is basically the same speed we're going on the uphill. So we definitely could have been going at least 4 or 5 miles per hour faster on that 1% downhill. I think I make a mistake here thinking this was the last lap. Being Cat 5, we normally do a 25 or a 30-minute grit. And this weekend, since we're 4 5s, it was 35 minutes. And I was really hoping we were done at 30 minutes. If it's not this lap, maybe it's the next one. I looked down at the Wahoo and saw we were 31 minutes in and thought like, oh, this must be the last lap. Yeah.
Is that it?
So there is a lap counter right there on the start finish. I didn't actually see it, but yeah, that's my second race that I lost. I did not pay attention to the lap counter. And the first race, I thought it was one more lap to go, and it was the last lap. This time, I thought it was the last lap, and we have about 3 more minutes to go. 3 or 4 more minutes to go.
Oh shit, I'm popped twice.
I ended up messing up our rotation here by thinking that was the last lap, and John's left out on the front by himself. And so, I eventually get back on and take my pull. Wasn't intentional at all, though. I just really thought that was the last lap, and obviously I was very fatigued, so.
Sorry about that. I thought it was over.
Yeah, you got my hopes up.
Yeah, John says he was just starting to like me. It's when you're down like this and you're riding at the back of the pack, which most new riders will experience this at some point. It's good to have other people with you, because solo, it's very hard to keep your concentration and just keep your pace up. It's hard to accelerate out of corners. It's hard to keep your cadence high. And, you have a wandering mind.
Yeah.
You have a little doubt creeping in. I mean, you have other riders with you. It's easy. It's a little more motivating. It's easy to work. It's easy to feel like you're almost teammates. You want to make sure you're putting in the effort for that person as well. And you want to finish strong. You never want to be to a point where you're just not giving any effort. Even though even though we're not going really hard here, it doesn't really hurt any less. It's still the same. It's, that effort is still taxing, still wearing on you. The wind still hits you. And it's definitely a great challenge. And this is why I love this sport, why I chose to try to compete in it. It's an incredible challenge, and you can never fake your fitness. You can kind of hide it a little bit if you stay in the group, but when it gets exposed, either you have it or you don't.
What's your name, brother?
Anthony.
Anthony, I'm John.
John, I got you in the last video at Ontario.
Well, there goes the little meet
We're
and
riding
greet,
together a lot.
as if we were in a breakaway and finally realized we're getting caught, not gonna make it to the end. You know, you see that on a lot of the tour rides. The guys in the breakaway, they realize, hey, we're not gonna make it, and they all start high-fiving and giving daps and kudos. And that's basically us. We're like, hey, it's the last lap. We made it. We worked together. Good job, everyone. I was done. I was actually content with just cruising in right now.
You're good.
And you know, John says, hey, you guys ready? Let's race. And I wasn't really ready for it, but then we have a nice little sprint here.
Heck no. Yeah.
John says he hates me. So even on my so-called sprint here, couldn't even hit 30, couldn't even hit over 1,000 watts. I was dead, but I got the jump, and it was enough to just cruise through the line with John on my butt. A little bit of fun there. That was good fun to end the race, and just made it a little bit more fun being busted and off the back, to have some guys to kind of race with and play around with.
Woo. Good ride, John. Thanks, man. Thank you. Pop goes the weasel.
Just did Tour de Murrieta, stage 1, the crit. The pace was incredibly hot, and I lost touch with the group, fell back a little bit. Then there was a big crash, and basically I was popped. So yeah, it was a good ride, worked hard, really fast, was able to team up with a couple riders at the end and enjoyed a little bit of a sprint, and that's about that. So yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.